So today I'm back with another review of the Ladies Who List Atlanta. This is going to be a review of episodes 7 and 8, which is actually the finale. Really, let's just get right into it. Episode 7 begins where 6 left off at the Libra Ranch Day. And guys, at this point, I pretty much just came to the conclusion that I don't really care for any of these women, honestly. They've all pretty much rubbed me the wrong way at this point. Um, you know, this is where we left off with Tiffany sitting here telling Robin that she doesn't necessarily have an issue with Crystal. She doesn't think about Crystal. She's too busy thinking about worried about her family and things that she has going on in her personal life. And that's when Robin then goes, yeah, I know what you mean. I understand. We got kids. We got more important stuff to worry about. And that's when Kiana took offense to her saying that, because Kiana's like, well, I don't have kids, so you're basically talking about me. And I do think that Kiana was being, sensitive, so to speak, because of her situation, maybe with trying to conceive. However, Kiana did make a good point, and which is basically the point that Tiffany made. And I was so glad that Tiffany, who was the person, with kids, pointed out to Robin, when you are in a group of women, you kind of need to read the room, especially when you're in a group of women who are of childbearing age. Not everyone in the room has children. You kind of need to, as she said, carry yourself with decorum. You need to be kind of just aware of the things that you say that can probably have a negative impact on somebody. And not to say that you necessarily have to walk on eggshells, but it's just, to me, it's just sort of a common courtesy for the other people that are in the room. I mean, I would say that in any situation. And honestly, the whole point that Robin was trying to make, to me, it wasn't a point. Because what she could have and should have said is maybe Crystal was immature. That's why Crystal, doesn't see things the way other people see things. She's worried about the wrong things because maybe her maturity level isn't there. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with having a child, so to speak, which is what Kiana was pointing out. And I'm so glad that Tiffany, like I said, brought that up to Robin. But what furthermore bothered me about this thing is that Robin is totally not really trying to hear Kiana, and then even goes as far as to say, oh, maybe she was triggered. And it's like, really? So you're the one who made all this fuss at your dinner about the word triggered, and constantly that word being used by Crystal. You were so offended, but now you go ahead and use that same word against Kiana. And you just didn't have the ability to empathize with her the same way you wanted them to empathize with you at that dinner. And I know I come on here week after week and basically have something similar to say about Robin, because in my opinion, it continues. Robin only is able to see things from her point of view, through her lens. And she doesn't understand how even someone like herself, who is so easily triggered, can be triggering to someone else. She totally dismissed how Kiana felt initially. Even with Tiffany trying to explain to her, she totally dismissed what was being said, which I think is just ridiculous. And I don't know, it just kind of speaks to the person we've seen her be throughout this entire series. And furthermore, I didn't like how Kiana snapped at Tiffany, but I get the impression that Tiffany was almost about to tell her business, and she shut her down real quick before she could basically enlighten the women and give them some insight into why Kiana might be offended or what might be going on with Kiana. But that's what furthermore upset me in this situation about both Robin and Tiana, because you can tell by the things that they're saying that they pretty much know that something is triggering Kiana and something is going on with Kiana. And even still, they don't have enough empathy to sort of just back off and let it go and address it for what it is. Because Robin even made a point to say, well, if Kiana would open up to us to share with us and let us know what's going on with her, then, I guess we can handle things differently. And as right as she is about that, clearly Kiana doesn't feel comfortable opening up at this point and sharing with these women one-on-one. I mean, so much so that, she filmed it and then it's going to be seen by the world. But that's still different to me than sitting down, pouring your heart out to someone one-on-one that you probably don't really know or think whether or not they really care. And to me, both Robin and Tiana in that instance kind of showed how much they didn't really care, because somehow Kiana and Tiana start having this back and forth. And even Tiana goes, "Oh, I don't curse. I'm a mother," which to me was a dig. It was like, I don't know. They all got their issues, and for real. And I didn't like that side of Tiana that I saw. I've always throughout the series thought Tiana was okay, but she definitely showed her true colors at another side of herself. And like I said, Robin's been showing her true colors. And the thing with Robin is, she's the one that brought up the whole not having children thing. She totally was so focused on trying to take a dig at Crystal, because that's what she did. She was trying to take a dig at Crystal, and she ended up offending another woman in the process. And I wish she was able to see that sooner. But basically, at the end of this scene, her and Kiana basically end up making up and just kind of moving forward. And then all the ladies eventually were able to sit down with one another and come to a happy medium. Because both Kiana and Tiana have expressed that even between the two of them, it seems like there has always been some sort of something there between them all these years as well. And they're going to work on that moving forward. And I guess maybe trying to get to know each other is what I took from this. So following, this scene, we go with Crystal and her dad to see this development. It's like a whole family of realtor developers, and they're called the U-Boys, I think is what they were, the name of their company. But apparently they're turning luxury homes into affordable properties for people. But they sound like they're a very successful family. They're doing big things, as far as their business goes and for the community. So that was great for us to see. And like I said, Crystal took her dad out there. I get the impression she sort of have an idea for something like that to occur amongst her family, is kind of what I got by her bringing her dad out there to sort of, let him see things and pick his brain and see how he feels about it. So in the final scene of this episode, we are now at Kiana's party, and we get to meet her mom and her siblings at this party. It's a Met Gala theme party. I liked what Crystal had on. She had on, a nice dress, nice headpiece. It was sort of over the top, but, if you know anything about the Met Gala, that's essentially, what the Met Gala is over the top fashions. So I think she did good with following with the theme. Some of the other ladies, to me, they look nice, don't get me wrong, but they definitely didn't come sort of Met Gala standard, so to speak. But I said, nonetheless, all the ladies look nice. And it is at this time that Crystal sits down with Tiffany to sort of, discuss whatever underlying issues they have. Because remember, she made an agreement with Robin that she would have this conversation with Tiffany. And in return, Robin is going to go with her to this poly party. So they sit down, and this whole conversation just irritated me, honestly. Like, Crystal, she's acting like she's so straightforward and to the point, But I even like that's what she's saying, how she's a straight shooter. But honestly, this conversation, I feel like she was kind of beating around the bush and not getting straight to the point when she was saying, is there something between us? I feel like we've been around each other all these years, and it just seems like you haven't always been that friendly to me, and so forth and so on. And initially, I was hoping that Krista would just leave it alone because it's weird, it's awkward. Tiffany keeps kind of giving her this, no, it's nothing. I just kind of tend to stick to and hang around people that I vibe with. To me, that would have been enough, right? I mean, you're saying that I'm picking up what you putting down. You basically saying you don't fool with me like that because you don't really vibe with me. But I think Crystal was maybe looking for something more concrete, and maybe was thinking that there's something specifically that she has done to Tiffany. Which, I mean, I can understand that because you feel like if you've done something specifically, maybe you can apologize to somebody, especially if you didn't mean to hurt their feelings or offend them. Then, you can apologize and maybe we can move on from there. But, with that being said, Tiffany kind of just kept being like, oh, if I vibe with people, that's one thing. If I don't force it. It is what it is. And even with Tiffany, I felt like she did a lot of beating around the bush. But when I had to sit back and think about it, it was probably a really awkward position for Tiffany to be in. Because I just think about, how I am. If I don't really care for you or fool with you like that, and I've made up my mind that I don't really care to fool with you on that level, I almost don't even want to have the conversation because I don't want you to think that we can come back from it. Like we could be cordial, we can kiki, we can be whatever in public, just have a good time amongst a group. But we will probably never interact one-on-one, and like you'll definitely never know any of my business. We'll never hang out. We'll never kick it like that. So I kind of got the impression that that's kind of where Tiffany may have been coming from. So she didn't want to just flat out say that there's an issue. But when I think back, Tiffany did have the issue. I remember earlier in the season, she mentioned when she was pregnant that Crystal offering to, I guess, sort of give her a helping hand in her business while she was on maternity leave. But she didn't think that it was genuine at all. And she mentioned sort of being offended. So I'm like, there's one thing. And not to mention this issue with Crystal trying to get some of Kira's business, who Kira currently strictly uses Tiffany as her closing attorney. So there are two specific instances that I can think of that she has an issue with Crystal, even though she kept making it seem like it's just that there's not really any issue. She just doesn't vibe with her. Like I said, she probably just didn't want to have the conversation because she's already made up her mind that she don't fool with Crystal like that. And she did make a good point, though, too. She was like, at no point in time over the years have you ever addressed me and inquired about whatever you are feeling. Why now all of a sudden? Is it because I've befriended Robin? Which I can totally understand her feeling like that, because that was my first initial thought myself, is like, okay, now that Robin has befriended Tiffany, Crystal doesn't want to be the lone man out. With her BFF has a new friend and now she's not really getting along with her like she wants to be included. But following that though, I guess the part that for me on Crystal's end, I can understand what she's saying, that there is another aspect of this, right, that Crystal brought up. That being, we are now being forced to spend time with one another. We're filming for this show. We have to be around each other. So she's like, with that being said, like, I mean, you kind of want to at least build some kind of friendly association with this person, because I mean, you're spending more time around each other than you ever have. And it's just weird and awkward for you, for the other ladies, when it's just this underlying thing and you just kind of want to kind of reduce that awkwardness and just come to some kind of happy medium, even if we're not BFFs. So I think Crystal made a really good point. And normally I wouldn't do that, but because we are on this show, I can understand putting whatever differences aside just to film this show. Like I said, not even to be BFFs, but to be friendly associates. So I do wonder, even moving forward, how that's going to work, because it has seemed throughout this first season of the show that when they are having conflict, the ladies are having conflict with one another, or they have issues with one another, either they don't invite the person they're having issues with, or they don't show up to their events. And I'm really sitting here trying to think, but I don't recall that really occurring a whole lot in other reality TV show franchises, so forth and so on. Like, usually people kind of suck it up and invite cast members, even if they aren't necessarily getting along with them. So that is why I feel like Crystal made a good point. Like, we got to film together. Like, I feel like they're not going to be able to go on season after season with isolating this person or that person because they're not getting along with them. I mean, it makes for a weird show. I mean, you want to see the whole cast. You don't want to see 2 people here, 3 people here all the time. You know, you kind of want to see them together, and then they're having big events. Like, you know, Crystal has, in the next episode, you'll see she has this award banquet or whatever, and, you know, like Tiffany didn't come. You know, they've all had some major events going on, and other people weren't invited or didn't come. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I would rather see a whole cast together than this constant separation. So I will be curious to see how they're going to mitigate that moving forward in future seasons of the show. Because, like I said, it does make it really awkward. But back to the Kira thing. Now, what irritated me is that Crystal pushed and pushed, and she just kept digging, kept asking, you know, what is there? Is there an issue? So finally, Tiffany is like, you know what? I'm going to lay it out there, and tells her about, you know, you trying to steal some of Kira's business from her. And I could not believe that Crystal just flat out ignored that woman. Like, she didn't say anything. And it's like, you kept pushing, you kept digging, and she brought it up, but now you don't want to address the elephant in the room. To me, that was a total cop-out. She tried to change the subject and tried to almost make herself a victim in the situation. But no, you wanted answers. She's now bringing it to you, and she should have addressed it. I mean, she clearly doesn't see a problem with it. And honestly, I don't know that I see a problem with it. I'm on the fence. I wish I could remember exactly. If Crystal was just trying to literally get Kira to sort of split some of her business with Crystal that she would normally give to Tiffany, or if it was more of a use Crystal as a backup, as a second option, if in the event that something happens and Tiffany's not available, and you're going to have to use plan B, like make Crystal your plan B. I don't see a problem with that. You know, being like, hey, make me your plan B. But anything outside of that, I think it was messed up and it was shady. I think Crystal mentioned at the very beginning of the season that there are only 2 black female closing attorneys, her and Tiffany. And I believe that's what she said. If that's the case, it's like, why would you go to actively recruit business from another closing black woman attorney? Like you said, like you're acting like we're colleagues and we're, you know, in this together, and we should be able to mix and mingle, and we should be, you know, almost like this sisterhood. But no, I don't agree with it, and I definitely can see where Tiffany is coming from. Um, like I said, clearly Crystal doesn't see it that way at all. But yeah, that whole thing, honestly, that conversation, basically, it didn't end well. Crystal got up and she's like, "Well, this is me trying, and now this is me not trying anymore." But she went well ahead and let Robin know that she tried. So you come on over to this poly party with me, and so that's where we come to in episode 8, which is the finale. They go to this poly party together. Um, this poly party was not at all what I expected. I did not expect this poly party to be a outside barbecue down at the local park. That's not the vision that I have for this party. Um, yeah. So needless to say, they get there. We get introduced to Crystal's old guy. And who knew? I guess Crystal got a new boo. So furthermore, I really don't even know why she went to this poly party or even entertained it. I would be curious to know how her new boo feels about her going to this poly party, entertaining it. I just feel like she should have just left it alone. But nonetheless, they went down there, and got really educated. Robin seemed to be really interested in, how these things work. And I think she said the older she gets, she understands that, relationships aren't, necessarily as simple as we think. And the older she gets, she's more fluid in her thinking. So, I don't know. I'm trying to, I don't know. Do y'all think Robin looked like she might have really been interested in this poly thing, and she might consider it. That's just kind of the vibes that I got, because she would seem to be really intrigued and really interested. And I don't know, like I said, if she might be interested or not. But like I said, Crystal says she's not dealing with it because she got a new boo, but she had to break that news to the old boo. So she's not doing it. But yeah, they met. It was like 3 couples sitting there who were all intertwined with one another, and they were basically just telling their experiences and what it's like to be in a polyamorous relationship. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't really care about nothing that they were talking about. Really, I just couldn't believe that they was down at a local park, the barbecue. I was stuck on that. So, nonetheless, so we do come to a scene where we have Kira and Tiana. They meet up and they're talking, and she tells Tiana how Crystal invited her to the poly party, and then she lets her know as well that she invited her for lunch and tried to, kind of woo her with this nice lunch, and to try to get some of her business. And I was really surprised at how almost naive that Kira appeared to be. Like, Tiana was just like, I'm gonna need you to understand when you're being, like sort of used a little bit. Like, you do understand, like, that her inviting you was not strictly to build a friendship with you. Like, it was about business, trying to get business from you. I mean, I guess a byproduct of her trying to get business is that maybe they might build this friendship, but it was definitely the purpose of her bringing her there was to get business from her. And honestly, Kira looks like she might seriously be considering it. And I would be curious to know, I guess, sort of why. Like, is she unhappy with Tiffany? Is there something with the services that Tiffany provides? Because my frame of mind is, like I already said, like, I'll consider you, Crystal, as a second option, plan B, in the event that plan A, which is Tiffany, totally falls through, then I'll come to you. But I don't see the point of going to literally give Crystal some of Tiffany's business if you're completely pleased with Tiffany's performance. So I was kind of shocked that she almost really seemed to be considering it and really thinking about it. I wonder, you know, I wonder what that's about. I feel like we might see more of that maybe next season, if that was a serious consideration that she was having. But yeah, it was just kind of weird to me. I'm like, why would she be considering doing that? And speaking of Tiffany, she seems to be, you know, to me appears to be good at what she does. I mean, of course, I don't know what specifically, but from appearances, because we see her two separate people. We see her clothes in the house of the guy who had I think they say he got shot 15 times, and he ended up suing, and they bought this big beautiful home, and they did this whole celebration. It was their daughter's birthday, and they celebrated their daughter's birthday during this closing, and Tiffany was there on site. And like, she creates a whole experience for her people, and she did the same thing with another client, Kiana's clients. I think they call him the money man or something. They have balloons and stuff just celebrating the closing. She was there physically as well. Like, she creates a whole experience for people, which I think was a really nice touch and nice thing to see. It appears that her and Crystal kind of have two very different styles, because we did see Crystal go out to the closing of a $3 million fixer-upper. I'm like, what could need to be fixing a $3 million home? But I mean, I guess, things get outdated, even if it's a $3 million home. But we go out there, and Crystal specifically says it's rare that you have Crystal Kimbrough out to come out to your closing. So they definitely seem like they have sort of two very different styles in the way that they do business. It sounds like Crystal rarely goes out, and it sounds like Tiffany always comes out. And like I said, and creates this nice experience. It's sort of, I look at as she sort of bonds with them, while they're in the process of being in their home and signing the paperwork. So it was interesting to see those two different perspectives. So finally, this episode ends with Crystal throwing her masquerade ball award ceremony. She gave out, a few awards to women in the industry. I think she gave Kiana an award and Robin an award. And we got to meet her mother there. Crystal, to me, definitely does look like her dad. Now that we've seen her mother, she definitely looks like her dad. But, Robin looked like she really vibed with Crystal's mom. Like, she said, she's so happy to finally meet her. She's heard so much about her. Tiffany did not come to the event. I guess she still felt some type of way from that previous conversation they had at Kiana's event. So she was not in attendance. And then Kara didn't come because I guess when she went to buy her dress, they left the center on there and she couldn't get it off. So I guess she didn't come. So basically it was only Tiana, Kiana, and Robin who showed up to her event. But it was a nice event that she had. It was a client appreciation ball, where basically she just showed appreciation for her clients and people that she works with. I thought that was really nice of her to do. And, sort of another side of Crystal we got to see. But that's pretty much how the season ended. To me, this last episode was pretty lackluster. Didn't really give much. In my opinion, they really could have kept it poly party and all. They built up to this poly party, which was nothing wasn't anything to see. Like I said, maybe my expectations were too high, but that is not what I expected. I don't know what I expected, but that wasn't it. Nonetheless, that was it. But we do see a little clip from the reunion that's coming up. I know I've heard that Kiana did not attend the reunion, and from the little clip that we saw, I did not see Kiana sitting on the couch. So I'll be back to review that, and we'll talk about how the reunion goes. But that ends my review of episodes 7 and 8 of Ladies Who List Atlanta.